Hi, everyone. This is Bruce Wolcott. I'm here with Ron Austin for our Edge of Ed broadcast. And I want to introduce a couple of special guests today. We're quite fortunate to have Peter Ahah, Dr. Peter Ahah from University of Washington, Bothell. He has also taught at Seattle University in organizational leadership. And so today, Peter will be talking about his new project, which is a hybrid between the Seattle area and Nigeria, which is Amalead Metaversity, and we'll hear more details about that later. Also, we're joined by Dr. Eugene Ohu of Lagos, Nigeria. He is senior lecturer at the Department of Organizational Behavior and Human Resource Management at the Lagos Business School. He teaches management communication, human behavior in organizations, digital marketing, and predictive HR analytics. That's a mouthful. His current interests are the psychology of human-computer interactions in the workplace, and he heads up, he's director of the Virtual Computer Human Interaction Lab at Lagos Business School in Lagos, Nigeria. So we're going to be talking with them today and find out more about their projects, how they got involved with XR, and we're finding out that the challenges they've had with XR, getting it an educational program related to XR in Nigeria, the same challenges we've had here, which is selling a good thing to people who are having to spend money for it. So first of all, I'd like to introduce you, Peter. I was wondering if you could describe what your current work is, and if you could give us a description of what you think XR is, what XR technologies are.
Thank you, Bruce, for this opportunity. For me, XR or Metaversity are the same, but just using different words to coin it. And I would explain XR or Metaversity as that which is above the physical environment or beyond the physical environment. And it involves imagining what the future will be and trying to create the future in the present. That is the way I see Metaversity and the XR. So there are technologies, emerging technologies that we are using to create this experience. So a very important word for me is immersive experience. That people are embedded in this unique experience that appears to be beyond the physical, but real, that people are able to interact, create ideas, and solve problems in that environment. So whether it is physical or beyond the physical, people are able to come together to create a solution for future problems.
Eugene, same question. How would you define XR technologies, and how are you thinking about using them?
First of all, Bruce, thank you for the invitation, and then greetings from Lagos, Nigeria. I guess I would define from the way I am using them. Extended reality, in my understanding, involves virtual reality, for example, which is what I'm doing I'm doing most of that now, even though we are also delving into augmented reality. But I like one of the comments that Peter made, which is extension of the current reality. But I like to distinguish virtual reality and augmented reality, because for me, a scientist, a researcher, I like virtual reality because I can create experiences. And when I am teaching, I create simulations that make learning experiential. I mean, there's an expression I like to use a lot, which is that virtual reality allows you to do dangerous things safely. and expensive things cheaply. And yet I also recognize the value of augmented reality, which in my view, compared to virtual reality, while virtual reality may have use in the classroom and in the laboratory, augmented reality would have more use, I think, in real life, because you're able to interpose virtual on the real world.
So getting back to you, Peter, I'm curious, could you describe for us your current work, directions that you're going, and tell us a bit about the Amalead University and the Metaversity. What is the structure of that, and where are you taking it?
I was inspired by, an author that is known as Peter Drucker, who argues that in the age of innovation, that practical education must prepare workers for work that does not yet exist, and work that cannot yet be clearly defined. So I traveled around, visited different parts of Africa, have had opportunities to, help students, international students that come from Asia, Africa, South America. There is interest that they want to gain some kind of education from the US and be able to go back and help with developments in their different countries. So experiences in Africa, there are some that want to come here. For some reason, they are not allowed because they don't have the finance or the, what it takes to study in the US. So my idea was to be able to help create a learning environment that is inclusive, a learning environment that will be able to provide opportunities for everybody, wherever they are. So I started experimenting on that. And that was, about 2016, thereabout. That is when I started attending some of these VR get-together in Seattle. I think that's where we met for the first time, Bruce. And then declared interest. I was at Seattle University at the time. So myself and a colleague applied for a grant, and we were given the grant to build a lab at Seattle University. So that research even launched me into trying to build a virtual university, which I call Amalead University, aka Amalead Metaversity. So Amalead University of Washington, for me, is a cultural exchange.
That's wonderful. So is that your name? Is that a name which you came up with for the program? That's wonderful. So do you have a program at the University of Washington right now where there's any VR, or is that anything that you're looking to do even? So
I think UW VR is more advanced, so much into games.
Right.
I don't see much emphasis in education because my own interest is in education. Okay, so I am teaching. In fact, they want me to develop a course called Emerging Technology for Leaders, which I'm likely going to teach in the winter. Yeah, so yes, they have a big VR lab, but the interest is not what I want. Yeah.
So, Eugene, Dr. Ohu, could you explain what the virtual reality lab is that you have at the Lagos Business School and the direction that you're going with that, and describe some of the activities that you're involved with there?
Okay, thank you very much, Bruce. As you mentioned, my interest is in human-computer interaction. So that interest is how people are affected by the technology they use, and how when they're using technology and it's not working, you need to modify one or the other. So that interest started with technology work tools, like the BlackBerry mobile phones, how notifications and distractions affect the well-being when you use them. Okay, so the ergonomics of using technology at work. So that was where this started. And then when I discovered virtual reality, this was in 2017, I found in VR everything I always liked about computers: immersive, but more immersive, more interactive. So I would say what really made me fall in love with virtual reality and so begin to use it for learning and behavior modification, which is basically what I'm doing, using VR for learning and behavior modification. What made me really fall in love with it was the ability to induce perspective taking. That in VR, it can be transported into that another environment. That other environment can be a physical environment, in which case it has applications for simulation or experiential learning. That other environment can be the situation of another person, in which case there is potential for empathy. So in this last one, this is what I'm doing right now. At the Virtual Human Computer Interaction Lab, we have a project funded by the Templeton World Charity Foundation. We got a grant of $234,000 2 years ago. The idea is teaching children empathy and compassion using virtual reality. So we're building a world, which everybody's calling the metaverse now. Okay, so because Nigeria is a country with 250 ethnic groups at least, and about 500 languages. So with such diversity, there is potential for ethnic discrimination. So what we're doing is to create a world where you can take the perspective of another person, somebody from another ethnic group, experience discrimination as that person, and we hope that the empathy that that would induce can be transported outside VR. So now that has many implications, because if this works, there are many implications for behavior modification, other things, and then all sorts of learnings as well. And then we're also creating simulations, because I work in a business school and there's a lot of simulations, there's a lot of scenario planning. We're using virtual reality for those as well.
This is great. So I'm wondering, how are you measuring the outcomes? Are you interviewing students, or how are you finding out that they're learning from it?
Fantastic. So it's a longitudinal study we are doing. So before the intervention, where the intervention might be a virtual reality game jam or a virtual reality gameplay, before that, we measure their empathy. So there are several measures. For example, there are many empirical measures, quantitative measures, but we also interview them. And then we measure these before the intervention, immediately after the intervention, to see if there is any change. And then 2 months after the intervention, 4 months after, and 6 months after, we measure again to see if there is persistence of effects. So there are many quantitative measures of empathy and compassion that we're using. And then, of course, we complement the quantitative measures also with qualitative ones, with surveys, okay, I beg your pardon, with focus group interviews. Okay, and then we are seeing effects. We're seeing effects 4 months after.
That's interesting stuff. The assessments piece is something that we haven't explored with as much thoroughness as you have. And so be curious to find out more how you're approaching those assessments with your students and faculty. The last question I have today really has to do, I found that the XR lab here at Seattle, one of the most exciting areas in the discovery for me is our ability now to collaborate and to network using these VR tools. And I'm curious to know, do you have interest, or do you see potential for the use of XR technologies for, well, cross-cultural networking and communication and problem solving? Is that sort of on your horizon right now? For both, the question for both of you.
Well, if I can go, I have had to collaborate with professors from the United States, because I teach organizational behavior. Professors, for example, from the University of Houston, and have their students interact with mine, so intercultural exchanges. So I haven't thought about using XR for this, but there's definitely potential for that. So if anything, one of the things that COVID-19 has taught us is that some of the things we thought were not possible would be possible now. Okay, so yeah, so it's certainly something to give a thought.
And Dr. Ahah, Peter, what are your
have
thoughts on that?
For Amalead University, the mission is this cultural exchange, between, Africa and America, and engaging some other cultures. My feeling is that the ability to come together in this virtual environment, helps to, enhance some level of interaction that will help people who are involved to solve certain problems. For example, when you come to innovation, because our own goal is all about innovation, how we can be able to create new experiences, solve new problems in the virtual world. The ability to bring people together, people from diverse cultural experiences, into a place where they can interact, engage each other, and solve problems. The importance of that cannot be overemphasized. So coming together definitely will help solve problems. I believe that experience helps for engagement, it helps for retention, it helps with understanding of changes and culture and all that. So yes, bringing people from different part of the world together is helpful to solving the future problem we have.
Yeah. Hey, I have a quick question. Dr. Ohu, you had mentioned that your students take part in game jams, and
yes,
so there might be an opportunity there for us to collaborate on a game jam, because we have a makerspace here and our students also take part in game jams. So that might be fun.
That would be fun, because I was very excited. I think Bruce showed us Mozilla Hubs, and I thought it was a fantastic way to create quick prototypes during the VR game jam. So clearly opportunities for collaboration there. So let's explore that.
Well, this has been wonderful to learn more about your program. So, and I'm looking forward to talking with you more again and working with you. This is great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today for Edge of Ed, and we'll look forward to talking soon.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming by.
Nice to meet everybody.
You guys.
Have a good one. Bye now.